Once again, live with Big Schwag. I ruined the whole intro. I was just talking about it.
That's all right.
Welcome to Shootin' the Shizz with DK and the Schwag with Lost Leatherface Kemper Killer. Oh, we don't do Lost Leatherface anymore. The Kemper Killer Leatherface 03.
That's right.
Brett
Papa
Wagner.
from Desert Fiends.
Although he's still got Lost Leatherface there. He changed it on me. He's always switching it up. Brett Wagner, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
Good, buddy. Just been, I start filming next this Saturday. I'm doing a little thing with Art Sideshow Museum out there. I'm doing a little filming with Robert Mukes, our buddy.
The big man.
And
Yes.
then next month I start filming Skate to Hell with Sean C. Phillips.
That's going to be a good one, man.
And next month we have a wedding that you and I are both going to. Michael Bailey Smith is wedding.
Excited for
Good
that.
guest, by the way. We'll talk to Jaime about that in a second. Really good guest to have. Great guy. Who's out in Arkansas, probably not that far. A drive.
Yeah, we got his deck right back there. The Super Freddy.
Yeah, Super Freddy. That's right. And of course all the Hills Have Eyes remakes and everything else he's done.
Yeah.
But we are talking Memphis Monster Con. Did I say that right?
Yes, correct.
And we got Jaime Wright, the promoter of Memphis. I say promoter, right? It's just promoter of Memphis Monster Con, owner of 901 Comics, 2 locations, 2 folks. So, Jaime, thanks for coming on, bud.
Thanks for having me.
I got a hold of Jaime because we started talking a little bit ago because I kept seeing these ads for Memphis Monster Con. I'm like, there's no convention in Memphis. And I'm like, but we've talked a little bit. You kept saying, hey, listen, I'm going to have some dates for this. I'm going to have some dates, and kept going. And then finally he had some dates. And then I was like, yeah. Then he's like, yeah, we got some dates. And, but before we get into that, you grew up and talk about growing up in Memphis and some of the stuff that you did. You had to, you own a comic book store, so I gotta imagine growing up, maybe comics were a thing for you.
Yeah, I always liked comics. I had an older brother that was 8 years older than me, so I was kind of always into the same thing that he was in. So you'd see he'd have comics laying around, or we'd go to the gas station and they'd have like Marvel versus Capcom. So we'd sit up there and play the arcade. Anytime X-Men was on TV or Transformers or He-Man, everything.
You grew up at the same time as me. That was like after school as a kid, and watching Transformers, He-Man, Voltron.
Yep.
Yeah. Now you're youngsters.
Yeah.
Did you
Not
guys
so much youngsters anymore. We felt like it for a long time, but you think back, it's a long time ago.
Were you? Did you collect comics, or you just were?
Just a fan. Never really collected.
Just a fan.
Until I got older, until I was in my late 20s.
And then let's talk a little bit about the horror wise. Did you love horror movies? Did you? Because you're foraying into a horror movie convention, sci-fi deal. So was there growing up? Were you a fan of this or no?
Yeah. So my brother was 8 years older than me, and my sister was 10 years older than me. So I'd watch what they watch. And my parents, they kind of were like, you don't need to watch this, but I'm like, I'm going to watch it anyway. But I just remember having nightmares of the orb with the little drill from Phantasm following me around as a little kid.
Right
and then I'd run into the squished people and just like, it seemed like I was having that nightmare every single night. And I just kept going with it and just next horror movie, next horror movie, next horror movie. So I got into it pretty young, younger than most kids probably do.
So Phantasm was your first horror? Is that what you're saying?
Phantasm was the first one that sticks in my back of my head, like a bowl with a screw in it.
I loved all 4. I know some people didn't love. I loved all of them. I mean, just seeing all the characters and what they did. The story was just wild in general, and like you said, with the drill and the sphere, it's just
boy.
Yeah. Oh, here's Beatrice, Amanda Kruger herself, DK and the Bees Horror Buzz. Check us out. We got a show coming up pretty soon with Matt Burns.
Oh, very cool. Matt Burns. Yeah. So, Jamie, Matt Burns helps out with Carolina Fear Fest,
Okay.
which is a very good con out there in Carolina, North Carolina. And they're really stepping up this year. They're bringing in some major guests. So it's I hope to be able to go back next year. But Matt Burns is a great guy, producer, does a lot of independent TV horror movies, and then helps promote some different cons and has run his own convention. So good guy to talk to.
He's a busy
good
man.
guy to. He's a good guy to be friends with because he knows a little bit about everything. Knows the convention game, knows the horror movie game, knows how to make movies. But yeah, Phantasm for me, Jamie. Let me just tell you, that was it's still, if I have a top 10 horror film, that is in the top 10. And then, but you know, I got to luckily work with Don Coscarelli on John Dies at the End, and got to meet Angus Scrimm at the, you know, at the red carpet premiere we had of it. And I was just like, oh my God, it's the tall man. I mean, he was hunched over, but I'm like, it's still the tall man. And he was so nice. And here's a funny story about him. I used to do security at a record store, you know, one of my favorite movies growing up. So in walks Angus Scrimm, and I'm like, I'm telling my boss, I'm like, that's the guy from Phantasm. He goes, hey, what the hell's I'm like, that's the guy from Phantasm. So I finally got the courage to go up to him. I'm probably in my 30s, you know, I'm 56 now. So I'm like, Mr. Scrimm, I'm a big fan of Phantasm. He goes, Phantasm? You must have me mistaken with somebody else. Sure. You know, and I was like, there's no way. That's Angus Scrimm. There's no way. But, you know, he was a classically trained Shakespearean actor, I believe, from what I read. And I think, you know, not that he didn't love what he did for Phantasm and all that stuff, but I think, you know, just I caught him off guard, and he was like, don't bother me about this right now, boy. But
fanboys.
Yeah, you know, and I was just like, oh my God. And then when I met Don Coscarelli, it was the same thing. I mean, his wife, we went to Walmart to get some clothing for me, so because she was helping out with the wardrobe, and he's such a nice guy. If you ever, Jamie, he is a guy that does not get invited to a lot of conventions. I don't know why, but he should. And a lot of directors lately have been doing that. He might be a guy I can put you in touch with, because, you know, it's always nice to have a guy. And he's so gracious with the fans, and he's so cool. And for God's sakes, he also did Beastmaster, for God's sakes. Come on.
I love Beastmaster.
Awesome.
Debbie had a big Mark Singer crush.
Oh, who didn't? I think I did too. I think I wanted to go walk around in that loincloth and look that good with a nice falcon or eagle on my arm.
Envy, not a crush. It was like, man, the dude's ripped.
So you get into there's another little thing about you that you started, you went to college, maybe you stayed in Memphis, didn't go anywhere?
No, I've stayed in Memphis my entire life. I did maybe like 1 or 2 semesters of college, and I was like, it's not for me, you know. And then, you know, my dad owned an antique store for forever, so I kind of already had the retail side in me, you know, buying and trading and all that good stuff. And then, you know, I worked in retail, sold cameras at Wolf Camera, and then got 21, started going to the bars and stuff. And I was like, this is awesome. And started bartending, you know, quit working retail, did that for a bunch of years. Probably drank way too much.
Plus all the tattoos.
Do it.
That's it. Plus all the tattoos, drinking and working bars.
Yeah. And, you know, sobered up. Had a bunch of money saved up because I wasn't spending money on booze. And then a guy that my dad knew, you know, he was having an estate sale, getting rid of all his stuff, and there was boxes and boxes of comics, and they started selling it to me, and I just went with it from there. Set up at a small little comic convention, you know, here in Memphis, and it just kind of grew.
That's pretty cool. But you know why I'm going into your background a little bit of this, because then you started working with Stan Lee, for God's sakes.
Yeah. So my business partner that I have now with 901 Comics, he's
Shannon Merritt.
Yeah, Shannon Merritt. he used to go to Dragon Con all the time. Well, Stan's manager's best friend had a booth at Dragon Con, and they made friends, and they'd go each year. And he'd always make sure he'd go by his booth and chit chat and stuff. Well, Stan's manager's best friend also lives in Memphis too, and he was set up at that same con, the first con that I set up at. And Shannon introduced me to him, and the guy was like, "Hey, yeah, you want to come to New Orleans with me next week and work with Stan?" I'm like, sure. So blind faith, went on it. Went down there, and it just they kept having me back and having me back. I guess they just like my work ethic, and and just did that for 5-6 years.
Wow. Now you got to, you went everywhere. You got to travel all over the United States. You got to travel all over the world with Stan Lee. Was that pretty cool? I've met Stan Lee once. He seemed very cool. I watched him, be swamped by 600 people in line. And I just didn't, what was it like working with the man?
He's super duper nice. Some of the stories that he tells, you wouldn't believe it if it came from anybody else. Like, one of my favorite stories that he told me was when he was working in New York City, or he was a kid in New York City. He was working at a movie theater. He was an usher there, and it was, movie was real dark. He was walking up the aisle, and somebody had their leg stuck out, and he tripped and fell. And then he looks up, and Eleanor Roosevelt's helping picking him up off the ground. I'm like,
Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of people who go, who the hell is Eleanor Roosevelt? It's a long story, folks. You got to know your history.
One of the greatest first ladies of all time.
That's right. Look at that. We're of the age where we actually know that, where they actually taught us in school about all that good stuff and all the presidents and all that good stuff. Well, that had to be wild. What was it? I remember. So the closest thing I can think of right now, as far as fans where people go nuts, is probably a lot of the Scream people. We go to these shows, me and John, and we see the lines for the Scream or the lines for Robert Englund or someone like that.
It's insane. You get a chance to meet basically one of them. I know Kansas City Comic-Con's got it this weekend. Quite a few of them. And I'm not even planning to go meet them unless I'm a vendor and lucky enough to run into them. I just can't wait in the line for 3-4 hours. Just can't do it.
Yeah, the way we used to do it with Stan, because we just knew there were so many people there, is that, you didn't really get to have, that personable time. You might be able to do like a fist bump with him or whatever, but it's, have your stuff out, ready to go out of the plastic. It's boom, 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 boom. So they was just a well-oiled machine. And we could get through, lines that would take most people, a couple days to get through, a couple hours.
And he would, and we're talking, this is Stan Lee at an older age too, right?
Oh, yeah,
but
he was 90s.
He would sit there and sign, right? He would just keep going.
The machine.
The machine.
He worked
the machine,
John. The end. He was doing conventions all the time. Like I said, probably the year before he passed, he was at Kansas City Comic-Con. I would have loved to have met him, but again, those lines were pretty rough. So we had to pick and choose and agree on things. We chose the fonts.
Oh, he's super duper nice too.
Oh, I love Henry Winkler. We're real nice. I deal with special needs, and he couldn't have been any nicer. And growing up a Happy Days fan as a kid, and the Fonz, I had my Fonzie shirt and stuff. Find out he was just an amazing guy outside of that, like in person. It's like, wow. He'd just stand there and shake everybody's hand and treated you like you knew him, and just was blown away how good he was. And he'd be on his feet all day. And what?
Oh yeah,
late 70s. The guy is an animal.
Was there a big difference? Because you got to see the States and then you also got to go overseas with him. Was there a big difference between fan bases like in Japan or Australia as compared to the US for someone like Stan?
Pretty much the same. He's known worldwide. Like Australia, we had a day where the show was over at like 7. He stayed and signed till like 9. The line was just that long. Everywhere the man went, it was just tons and tons of people.
So you got very lucky. You were doing this for 4 or 5 years, and then you decided when you went to Japan, with Stan that you brought your wife.
Yeah, they let me bring
you.
my wife. Yeah, she was at work, and I called her, and I was like, "Hey, can you get off in like 3 weeks to go to Japan?" And it was kind of blindsiding her, and she's like, "Sure." And then like the whole time, we fly to LA and hang out in LA for a couple days. And she's like, "Where are these plane tickets?" And I'm like, "Oh, don't worry, we'll get them when we get to the to the airport. That's how it always works out." So she's like, "I don't know about this. This is crazy." And sure enough, it worked out like it always does. And then, hanging out with we got to go out a couple days before and check out Tokyo. We even did the Mario Kart thing where we all dressed up as Mario characters. Even Stan got to dress up. He rode in like one of those cars that's like 3 wheels or whatever. But we all had go-karts riding through the streets of Tokyo. It was pretty awesome. But yeah, I got to. There was one temple that she kept talking about she wanted to go see, and I was like, "That's what I'm gonna do it. That's where I'm gonna do it." And then, sure enough, did it. Asked her to marry me. She said yes. And what happened? As soon as she said yes, there was like 50 school kids like come walking down the stairs, and everybody starts clapping. Like this girl, like a Japanese girl, comes up and is like, "Hey, can I take a picture with you?" And it's like, sure. So it was perfect. You couldn't ask for anything better.
This was obviously pre-kids because I was looking at both of your guys' Facebook pages, and it looks like you have a few kids now.
No, we got one kid. He just turned 8 months old today.
Okay, those must have been the neighbor's kids you stole. Then I won't tell anybody. Well, congratulations. Oh, that's pretty cool, man. So you get to go over there. You're in Japan. You propose. So you do the Stan Lee thing for 5 or 6 years. You're married. You got children. Then came the comic book store, correct?
Yeah, I was still working with Stan, but not as much because that's when Shannon, my business partner, he'd been putting it in my ear for years. We'd be at the local watering hole having drinks late at night, and he'd kept talking about it. And finally, I'm like, "All right, let's just do it." And
worked out pretty good so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how much? You got to have a lot of stock, though. I mean, you got to have a lot of product.
Yeah.
Before you open up a comic book store, no?
Yeah, I had probably 50 long boxes of comics already in my collection. I put everything in the store. He had probably about 30 or 40 himself. And then, just buying, saving up, buying from the distributor, here and there where we could, just to keep, adding. And then, we opened up. I made good friends with Alan Bellman. He passed away like 2 years ago. He was well into his 90s. Worked on Captain America with Sid Shore back in the 40s.
Wow.
And, we flew him in, and it was just huge. I mean, if we wouldn't have had that day, I don't know if we would have made it. It was that big. It was,
So you've had have you guys went to the comic? Now you got 2 stores, correct?
Yeah. We got 2 stores. We have our original location, and then we opened up one back in 2021 on the other side of town. This one's about twice as big. And then we also opened up a vintage toy store called 901 Toys.
Joe, these guys they're taking over
well, that's
they're taking over Memphis.
I'll tell you one thing. That's why I love promoters. I mean, guys like Jaime, we have on. They're always got their hand in something, and they're always doing something. It's awesome. It's never just the convention. There's just always so much more that led to that convention. It's such a fascinating story, man. You've lived a pretty awesome. You've had a pretty awesome ride, Stan Lee, your own, and leaving Stan Lee to go do your own comic thing and believing in it and it working out like that. That's fantastic, man.
So this all sounds, this is great. I mean, this whole story, you've done a lot of cool stuff growing up, but then you're like, you know what, Schwag, you know what, John, I want to do a horror movie convention. I want to do a horror con. Where did you get this idea from? And were you going to conventions before and checking stuff out?
Yeah, I mean, I was always working the booth, but sometimes we get a chance to like go out and walk the floor, just see what's going on. So done that, hundreds of times. And then me and Shannon always talked about doing our own convention here in Memphis. But there was already a comic convention, the Memphis Comic Expo, pretty good convention. It's really, it's artist and writer based. And then there's Anime Blues, which is a really good anime convention. And it's like the city doesn't have a horror convention.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, you know, this is a city where like the metropolitan area is 1 million people. You know, so it's like my love of horror. Like, you know, I'm wearing my Jason video game shirt. I mean, that's pretty much most of my wardrobe has always been, you know, horror T-shirts. So, you know, as I was like, hey, we need to do a horror convention. He's like, you know what you're doing, run with it. So
sounds like you're in the you hit the market, man. I mean, conventions are great, and if there was only comic ones, which are great anime ones, but you need that horror convention in the area. So I'm sure people are very grateful that you're putting it on too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like Patrick Cox, he was he's from Memphis. He was in Dark Knight Rises. He was in one of my favorite TV shows, The League. He was in an episode of that. But he's been in a bunch of other movies. I think he played Bam Bam Bigelow in the Young Rock series. But he shouted us out on Instagram a couple days ago, and he's like, "Man, I wish this was still around when I lived in Memphis."
Yeah,
that's right. He did play. Yeah, that's so funny. I've had a whole bunch of friends that were on the Young Rock and got to play. My one buddy played Andre the Giant on there. So,
wow.
Yeah. So the Bam Bam Bigelow. Well, that's. Well, gosh, you know what? I mean, were you a fan of wrestling? Because, you know, Memphis is a very, very famous town for pro wrestling.
Well, I don't know if you can see it, but up on my wall, there's the man Ric Flair autographed poster. Yeah. Yeah. Always been into wrestling. Me and my brother, my dad watch it every Monday night.
Jerry the King Lawler out there in Memphis wrestling, for God's sake.
He actually comes to the shop pretty often.
Oh,
I happen to have some wrestling stuff too right here. I didn't even play.
Oh, look at that!
Oh,
nice. Michael Toast.
I got the Dude Love
artist. Yeah, the art on the side. So give him a shout out, Michael Toast. Been killing it.
Great artist that John introduced me to. That's done a lot of the stuff. He's done a lot of stuff for both of us, and I'm real grateful for Michael Toth. But he does a real cool thing with the Funko Pops. He'll draw some of his artwork on the side, and then, you know, once you get that signed, it's pretty cool. You got the artist, him, and then you got the actor, whatnot. I love Mankind. I got to do, Mick Foley. I did a TV show, G vs. C, where I got to wrestle him on the TV show, and I was a bad manager. I was like a Bobby the Brain Heenan, my favorite guy of all time, besides Ric Flair. And I got to wrestle him on a TV show, and he was so kind and such a good guy. But he just had double ligament cadaver surgery, so he took ligaments off someone that just died, so he could have them in his legs. And I remember, you know, I wasn't a good wrestler at all. I was terrible. So, but I could give a good clothesline and all this stuff, and I gave him a clothesline. He goes, "Kid, you're going to have to really hit me a lot harder than that. I can't fall over." He just had the surgery. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I had to really club him, but he's like, that's good. That's good. What a great guy. Yeah. So have you any idea what it, cause I mean, I was talking to you a while, many months ago about this when I first saw it.
I'm sure you're probably like, this guy's just leading me on.
I wasn't. No, I knew we were going to get you on the show. I knew I was like, well, this is a guy I want to get on the show. We like to showcase, whether it's, you know, young directors or people doing movies or people that are doing conventions from the big to the small. And, you know, you're filling a great spot, a market in Memphis. Like you said, didn't have anything. So for us, horror fans and you know, the people in the surrounding areas, that's going to be a new great place to go. What have been some of the things that you've had to deal with right away, you know, trying to get this thing put together that may have shocked you or just been an issues?
I mean, the big thing was waiting on that date. I mean, I kept, you know, since the venue's on the same grounds as the football stadium, so we had to wait till the new football schedule dropped in February. They didn't tell me when in February it would drop. It happened to be the last day in February, but, you know, because they don't want a game to coincide with the, you know, same day as a convention, because it would just be a nightmare for parking and logistics.
That's money. That's one of the big Memphis.
It's a University of Memphis Tigers.
The Tigers. That's right. Big, you know, for basketball and football, big deal over there. So yeah, that's going to take. they're going to say you're not screwing with the football.
Right.
We're excited for the horror convention, but not during football season.
Yeah, you ain't messing with the football. I love. I looked at the venue. That place is pretty big.
Yeah, over 27,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Now, you dropped your first guest today, which me and John are like tickled pink. I mean, that's a good one because he doesn't do a lot of conventions, and he is a legend in the horror business.
Absolutely.
Ken Foree. So how did you guys? How did you approach Ken?
So when I first had this idea, I actually reached out to the folks at Scarefest on Facebook, and I was like, "Hey, how do I go about, trying to get guests and stuff?" And I was mentioning to people on Facebook. They're like, "Well, we're just the, the social media team. We don't really control that." But the guy, he was like, how about you download IMDb Pro and go from there?" So I did that, which, has a lot of, good information with it. So I emailed, I found Ken's agent's number, sent an email, not really expecting much back. And then one day I'm cooking dinner and my phone rings and it's a LA number. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll answer. And I answered and it was like, "Hey, is this Jaime?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Hey, this is Ken Foree." And I about passed out.
The man.
Yeah. And me and him talked for a good 30, 45 minutes. It's just, that man is just a wealth of knowledge. I mean, and he's just as kind as can be. He's like, if you need help with anything, you've got my number, text me, call me, I'll help you out wherever I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, we were talking about it. My favorite movie of all time is Dawn of the Dead with Ken and everybody else, and it's still when I was growing up, every time, John, when they had they had the extended version on VHS, an extra 2 minutes, an extra 3 minutes. Oh, a deleted scene. So I ended up with like 30 VHSs of Dawn of the Dead. And I'd be like, I wish I still had them. I got rid of them.
Probably worth. I mean, it's so hard to find that movie now. I mean, you got to kind of really search unless you have it in physical media. You're not going to find it like on Prime, Amazon Prime, or anything like that, which is unfortunate for the fans.
I do like the remake, but it's not the same.
Yeah, great. Ving Rhames, you got a great cast.
It's still not. It's not Ken Foree, and he was so good in that movie, and he's been good in a lot of stuff. And I like it that Rob Zombie's used him, and a lot of other people. This guy he's a big dude. Oh, yeah. Jaime, I'm a big guy, right? I'm 6'4.5", 310 pounds. Ken Foree's a big dude.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you. John got to sit next to him and to chat with him.
Well, he's tall, but he's also, like you said, he's not just tall. I mean, you wouldn't want to upset that man, but I don't know if you're able to upset him. He's just always has such a nice, calm demeanor.
Yeah, I don't want to take the chance.
You probably earned it. No.
So this is my one story about Ken, because we used to all get our pictures done at a place called Prince Charming, and that's where you get your headshots done as an actor. And if you're doing conventions and you needed duplicates of this Ken was doing conventions a lot, and he would go in there and he'd be sitting with Carlos, our buddy of ours that ran the shop, and little tiny thing in Studio City, just north of Hollywood. And, he's like, my buddy Carlos says, there's only two people who get to use that bathroom. It's you and Ken Foree. I don't let anybody else use the bathroom. No one else could use the shitter. I'm like, just me and Ken? He goes, I would never say no to Ken. I would have said no to you, but you've been so cool to me. I'm like, oh, so Ken uses that shitter? I'm like, man. I was so, it's the weirdest thing to be in the bathroom.
It's only one of the two of you.
It's the weirdest thing. Two giant guys in this. I mean, we weren't in there together, but just the fact that I got to use the same shitter that Ken Foree does.
My ass sat right where Ken's ass sat on the toilet.
Bam! I was so that's my one goofy story, I'll say. But that's pretty cool. Is it because now you have to start dealing with getting vendors, finding vendors, dealing with managers of actors and stuff like that, which can be challenging in itself, which I'm sure you're learning about.
Oh yeah.
It's always a lot easier sometimes to deal with the actors on their own, but it's something that's going to happen. You're going to have to learn. And, and some managers will want to say, hey, look, you take this guy, you got to take these two people too. So what has been has it been a challenge lining up the guests at all for you? You got them all lined up and now you're just going to, each week maybe drop a name?
Yeah. I know we definitely have several more lined up already. I think we have 4 more right now lined up. With more to come.
You got time, which is good.
Yeah, we got time. Probably drop them, every Wednesday around noon. But I mean, yeah, the most difficult thing definitely is dealing with some of the managers. With some of the demands that they ask for and then I talk to other people, other promoters from other shows. They're like, no, you don't need to do that. So I've, been talking to some other promoters and then like, here, I'll help you do this. I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I did, when I first started. So it's been kind of a blessing to, have, good help, good, nice people in my corner.
Of course. And then I've dropped all of our friends' names. I'm like, oh, you got to get this guy. Hey, you got to get Tom Matthews. Hey, you got to get this.
Yeah,
hey, you better go get Felissa Rose. So I've dropped.
They're all great guests too. I mean,
yes.
I hear you. If it's so, I don't want to say it's easy but with you, so many, which ones are pretty good. So when you drop a name, it's usually because you're putting your word on them. You know what great guys they are.
Jaime,
and I'll bring you fans. And I mean, they are all good fans. The ones you've named, even before we started, they're great people.
Yeah, Jamie's got good taste in his actors too, as well. I mean, from the movies and whatnot. So we all have a lot of the same. When I made some suggestions to him, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to." Yes, Felissa Rose does 90% of the conventions. However, and I was talking to Jaime about this earlier. Someone like her, someone like a Bill Moseley, can do the same convention every single year and still have jam-packed lines, and still have. The same people that got a picture the year before, they're getting another picture.
Well, she's at Scarefest a lot. I mean, her line even last year, she was the year before. She is so popular with the fans. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's what
I didn't realize how
was telling me. Yeah. They're like, they're surprised that it's like every single year her line just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
It's insane. It never ends. Like when we saw her in October. She was sitting right by Beatrice and. It just never ended in her line. She was incredibly popular with the fans, and she's got more energy than anybody I've ever seen in my life. I mean, she's always sweet and she's always energetic, though. I've never seen her like, oh man, I'm tired. Nope. Nope, that's not her. And she goes all out. She really does. It makes a difference for the fans. People, you can have guests, but the ones that really do well with the fans go a long way. And the reputations go a long way. People hear about it. Like I had heard about Felissa as an example. I heard Mike McGlynn told me, such a great person. She's so nice. Man, how nice could she be? I mean, he keeps talking. Yeah, she's that nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, with your convention coming up, I don't know if Brett's still paying attention, but do you have an idea how many guests you want to bring in, how many vendors you want to bring in? Because you said you had like 25,000 square feet, so I imagine you got a lot you plan to fill in.
So I think we're probably gonna have around 100 vendors, or at least 100 booths. I know some people are gonna buy more booths than that, but we've already got, I think, 15% of the vendor booths filled. Our artist alley is already over halfway full. We're probably gonna have about 20 to 25 artists in the artist alley, artists and creators, book writers. First year show, we're probably shooting for around 10 to 12 guests.
That's good.
I mean, if we can, make it work, we can definitely get some more people in there. But
you don't want to bankrupt yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
your feet wet.
Hotels and flights.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
Sorry, honey. we don't have money to send the kid to college or school.
We got to sell one of the comic book stores. Yes, you don't want to mortgage the comic book store unless you got a couple of those Spider-Man ones laying around signed by Stan Lee.
Yeah, I wish. I sold a lot of my Stan Lee signed books to fund the first shop.
Sacrifice.
Oh, okay, I got you. Oh, wow. Well, there you go. Oh, okay, yeah. You probably had them all signed too.
A lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I used to collect Sergeant Rock, and then I have I'm a horror movie guy, right? So obviously I love horror movies. So I got the all creepy and eerie, and I got half of the Vampirella. So Warren magazines, which was a big deal when I was growing up, and I'm a little bit older than you two. So Warren magazine was the big deal for me. So creepy and eerie with the art, Franzetta and Corbin and all the artwork that were on the covers and the artists inside was such a big deal to me that still my wife goes, what are these comic books doing in the closet? I'm like, those are that's
they're not for kids.
That's my thing, because that's like what was Heavy Metal, the movie. That stuff was growing up. I was like, oh, this is just. I was such a big fantasy horror, that kind of stuff was. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about right now, but I was so big in
music too. So that movie got everything you need in it for a guy like Brett.
For God's sakes, Heavy Metal was great. Plus, I used to collect those magazines too. And then the Fangoria, of course, I had to have all the Fangorias growing up, and I remember spending a pretty penny on all that stuff. Do you carry any Fangoria in the store? Is it strictly comics, or what do we got at 901?
Sometimes we get some stuff in collections, but I don't think we have anything right now. It's some of that stuff. As soon as we get it, it just goes right back out the door. I mean, people love that artwork, especially like a lot of that Frazetta stuff on Heavy Metal. You can't keep it. Everybody's looking for it.
So good. Frazetta was so good. I mean, it's just, you know what? Because what it does is it takes you back, Jamie, too, when you were a kid, when you felt safe, when everything was good, when there was no issues. I mean, I used to go to the comic book store that I used to go to as a kid is still there. It's called Continental Comics in Granada Hills on Devonshire and Balboa. It is still there to this day. But I remember when I have $1, I could get 4 comic books, man, 25 cents a piece. And then they kept going up, and they kept going up, and they kept now. And, back then they still were a decent size, amount of pages in the comics. Now they've kind of shriveled, and it, some of the stuff's $10 to $15 to buy some of that stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the things that we're running into at the shop is like, fatigue with people, comics went, $2.99, $3.99. Now you have like issues of Batman that are constantly like $4.99, $4.99. It's just, you're running into a lot of people that are getting fatigued where they're just spending too much money. So, it's just one of those things we just have to, figure out how to get around, and, it's constantly changing. You got to change with it.
So any hints? Can you talk about some people that you wanted to bring in that you haven't booked yet, that can you throw out some names to some of these folks, and or is that bad?
A movie that me and you actually talked about that we are huge fans of is Return of the Living Dead.
Yes.
And I'd love to do a reunion to bring in 3 or 4 of the actors from the movie. I mean,
Linnea Quigley.
Yeah, Linnea, probably Tom
Miguel
Matthews,
numbers still.
Miguel Nunez, Alan Trotman played Tarman.
Yeah,
I just like that would be awesome.
They're all great guys and girls, of course. Beverly,
you got some good. You got some great Return of the Living Dead stuff.
I just got a piece made by our good friend Vinny Cucurato, who does all those Michael Myers. He did this.
I got one. Hold on. Keep talking.
But we did the. I'll pull up a picture, but a new centerpiece is a Returning the Living Dead piece that my buddy Vinny made, and I'm going to be seeing Tom Matthews at a few shows, so we did that. So that would be great if you guys had that there, because you guys are in Memphis. I think it's only about 6.5 hours from me, so that's not too far.
Yeah, my Tarman New York Comic Con exclusive figure.
Oh, that is sweet.
Well, I got my Michael Toth party time.
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
that one's awesome. Yeah, Michael Toth kills it with that stuff.
Signed by Tom Matthews.
I got to get him to sign this because he was at Scarefest when I got it signed by Linnea and Beverly Randolph and Troutman and the whole thing.
And that's a Michael Toth piece?
It is. It actually lights up, but I don't have, well, I do have a USB here. But hold on.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's great. Yeah. We love artists. So at the convention, are we going to have, so we got artists coming. Do you have some comic book guys coming that are artists for comic books and whatnot?
Yeah, we got some local guys. I know there's, I think we've got a couple of artists from Nashville. There's another artist that's done some cover stuff. I forget his name, but he's coming in. No huge names, but just like a lot of really good talent. I've seen a lot of these guys work. They've been sending it in when they send in their applications, and it's top notch.
That's great. And now, so vendor, what about food? Now, listen, here's the big deal, Jamie. Here's the big deal. Now, listen.
Memphis. I love talking food. This is Memphis.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the, well, here, first, before we get into the food, talk about, so some of the guests come out, and some of the people may drive in from another state or whatnot to come see this. Talk about some of the cool things they can do in Memphis while they're there.
Well,
then we'll get into the grub.
You know, Memphis, they call it Nashville Music City, but Nashville is just known for country music. I mean, Memphis is, you know, home of the blues, birthplace of rock and roll, soul, funk. I mean, you know, you've got Bill Street, which, you know, is real touristy and stuff, but you can see like W.C. Handy's house is right on Bill Street. And then there's great museums like Sun Studio, where Elvis got his start. Graceland. My personal favorite music museum is Stax. And they even have Isaac Hayes' Cadillac in there where it's constantly turning. And they have the wah pedal that he used when he did a Shaft soundtrack. I mean, that's my favorite one.
The Stax Museum, that's great. Again, we're talking about stuff that maybe the younger generation has no idea what we're talking about. But yeah, rhythm and blues, Memphis, the blues, the sound, Elvis and all that stuff. That's great. I mean, I did a Comic-Con, a tiny little Comic-Con in Memphis with my wife. My wife actually got booked because she was on some comic book called Ginger Stein. And she was on the cover of this. I think they did 4 issues, and she got invited to Memphis, and that was right when we first started dating. And somehow I was like, and I had really never done any cons, but I was like, she kept saying, "Well, my husband, he's been in a lot of TV, and a couple movies, and Texas Chainsaw, The Crazies," and so we went out there. But it was such a small deal that you know, I didn't have any fond memories of it, and I got to cruise around Memphis a little bit, which was great, which I enjoyed. And let's talk about the food now, Jamie. Get into this. Get into the good food.
Me is I used to be a chef too.
He's got a change in everything. Bartends. Well, you need food when you're serving alcohol,
well,
right?
You know, I met my wife online, eHarmony, and she's like, "I'm so glad you didn't put down chef and bartender on there because you probably still would have been on the list." But barbecue, of course, you know, Memphis Barbecue International Festival every single year. I mean, you can talk to 10 different people and you can ask them their favorite barbecue place, and you'll get 10 different answers. Same thing with fried chicken.
Brett might have to taste them all out and put on, rate them.
Boy, I don't know. You, John, you might have to get a table down here. I mean, this is in November, which the nice thing. The nice thing about November is there's not a lot of stuff that's going on in November. No. So the only thing you have is, gosh, you really don't have anything. If there is anything, it's overseas. So you're going to have
I want to get there. I think I'm going to probably get a table.
Yeah, that's the main thing the reason why we had it in November is because, you know, I know most of the people are going to be booked in October for Halloween. But then, you know, there's still that week or two after Halloween where people are like, man, I wish Halloween was still going on, you know, so.
I had the hangover of that last year, too. After Scarefest, I was like, man, because I was on the road so much. It was like, damn, this sucks. It sucks being without a convention after October a lot of times. So the fact you're doing one in November is very tempting. Very, very tempting.
Well, talk about are we going to have snow on the ground or no?
No.
Probably not.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, that's good.
We did get a good bit of snow this year, but it wasn't until January. We got like 5 inches of snow, but most of the times if it's anything, it's like a light dusting and it's done. It'll probably in November it'll probably still be 45 degrees.
That's not bad.
No.
That's not bad at all. Now let me ask you about Mexican food and tacos. Okay. Just in case I come out with John or something and we do a table together, if I come out and hang with him at his table, if he gets a, I am a taco connoisseur, and I found tacos in almost every state in the United States where I can tell you a good taco place. I can't tell you a good taco place in Memphis because I don't know. Is there a good taco place in Memphis?
Actually, right around the corner from the convention is a place called Macei's Tacos. I go by there once a week. It's really, really good.
Oh man.
Yeah. Whenever Brett goes to a convention, there's two things he brings up. How good, all about the convention and the taco places. Every single one. He is a taco connoisseur. Yeah, he looks.
I always get the chorizo tacos.
I love listen, pastor, chorizo. It's all good to me. Are you gonna? Does the place where you're having the convention? Do they have food there? Is there gonna be some trucks or?
They don't have food, but I'm gonna bring in some food trucks. Have a good little blend of different things.
I like it. Well, the venue looks amazing.
It does make a big difference too. It does for the fans. Yeah, food is a big thing with the fans. I've been to some cons where it's like, the food's not good, and other ones where it was really good.
Yeah, well, it's like doing San Diego Comic-Con every year. The food there, you're eating there at the convention center, and it's hamburgers and hot dogs that are been sitting under a warmer, or stale chicken tenders. But with having the food truck scene here in Memphis is really good. There's a great blend. I mean, you can literally find anything you're looking for in food trucks. And we'll just make sure we have a good blend of good blend of cuisine.
Music. Is there possibly going to be? Are we going to have some music at Memphis Monster Con?
About 2 weeks after I started the Instagram page, the Kiss Army reached out to me, and they're like, "Hey, you want us to play your con?" So I don't know. That's still in the works. I mean, it'd be amazing, but they don't tour. You fly them in, and then you have to have like a PA for them and stuff. But I mean, they're like the only Kiss band that's endorsed by Kiss themselves, which would be awesome.
Well, there's also Mini Kiss.
Oh yeah.
The Mini Kiss guys, which are pretty cool. Well, that's good. I mean, listen, man, it sounds like you're doing the right thing. You got it going on. I mean, you definitely have good taste in your first guest, so you dropped. So that's pretty exciting in itself. You're going to get people that want to come meet Ken just alone that would love to meet Ken 4E and get something signed by him. And he could also, I'm telling you, he can double as your security for you at the front door if you need to. Just stick him up there with some sunglasses. But give him his own private bathroom. All right,
I was gonna say the same person. Ari's really cool. He's definitely a showman, and Bass Amp and Ari are two cool guys that I've met in the band. I think that's right. Very, very cool.
Ari Lehman, First Jason.
Yeah,
his band. Yeah, they're pretty cool. They play a lot, especially when Ari gets booked. The band will usually get booked to play as well, and that's a good time.
He plays guitar, right?
Yeah, guitar.
Yeah.
Yes. Is that what it's called?
The guitar, yeah.
Ah, all right. I just thought it was like a, what do you call it? Who did it? Who played it? Weird Al Yankovic, I think, has one as well. He uses for a couple of his songs. So what else do you want the folks to know, Jamie?
I I mean, basically doing this for the fans. I mean, just hope we have a good lineup. We got a lot of people messaging us like, hey, what about this person? Hey, what about this person? We might not, message you back, but we're listening. We're definitely listening. And just support us. We'll support you. Just.
I like that attitude, man. I love that attitude with promoters and conventions and different areas of supporting each other and helping each other out. Like you said, there's quite a few that you've asked questions to, reached out to, and they've been pretty gracious. It sounds like to help and give you any information so you can launch a successful first con, because it is a lot of work, especially for a first one. There's so many little things that you got to worry about. It's not just putting on tables and bringing in guests.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially when meeting with the venue, it's like, hey, what about custodians? What about security? What about lot security? It's just like, I didn't think about this.
Lot security is probably going to be pretty important.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I'll be sleeping right by the table if I go and there's no lock.
Yeah, they got to lock that building up at night. So once everybody's out of there, so everybody's stuff stays safe. Paul Bearer Express, I think that's my buddy's name. I got to let them know. They always bring off a good table and good stuff. There's so many cool people, vendor-wise, that you could get. But, it sounds great, man. I'm excited for you. I think it's, me and John always think about where could we, if we wanted to do our own con, where is there some place that people aren't doing it, for God's sake? Because, there's so many cons now, Jamie. They're all over the place. Tennessee has some good ones.
Franken. There's one in Kingsport, Tennessee, which is a small little town, and it's freaking huge.
I did it. Yes, I know. So I did that a couple years ago. Yeah, there's stuff all over the place, but there's not in Memphis. So That's great. And we obviously wish you the best and anything we can do to help you. And then we'll get you back on before we get close to November, and we can go through the lineup again and chat about some stuff. And anything you want to talk about, you just let us know, and we'll get it done. And man, we're excited that you're putting this together, and it's going to be fun. I think a lot of people are going to dig it, and you seem like a great guy, and we'll come raid your comic book store.
Heck yeah. Oh, and just to let you know, our new location, 901 Comics, has a bar in the back too. Beer and pizza.
Uh-oh.
What? Is that so? Do you have to have is that just for the people that work there? Is that like
we got a full-on beer license?
So comic book store and pizza and beer.
Yep.
Perfect.
Man, we might have to get a 901 Comics in Missouri now. I don't know. We may have to branch off. Are there ideas? Do you guys are you planning on opening some more? This could be a.
Yeah, there's always ideas. It's just we're at the point now to we got the con in the works, and it's just making sure the shops are finally tuned, so that way we can kind of pay more attention to the help nurture the convention and. Without neglecting the stores.
Well, your hands are full. Yeah, it sounds like just the convention alone is going to be tying you up with the stores and stuff. Opening another store might not be ideal to trying to put a convention together, huh?
Yeah.
But I do love the idea. It adds a little something to a comic book store where you're not just going there. You can have some pizza, you can have some beer.
Yeah, we do. We do trivia on Thursdays. We'll have people come out there and play, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic the Gathering, D&D. So
that's pretty cool, man. I'm wishing you the best of luck. I'm excited for it. I'm going to try to get there in November. I'll talk to you about getting a vendor table out there. Come out there and support, bring some cool stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, if folks want to get a hold of you or want to make suggestions on guests or I saw one suggestion today that mentioned someone we all know that's on the podcast tonight. So that was whoever that guy was. Thank you very much. That
guy? I'm not going that. No, Brett, you know what? The fans love Brett. He is a great guest. That is for sure.
I've been working Jamie for 8 months. We'll keep working him. We'll see what happens. what was I going to tell you? Oh, where can folks get a hold of you or take a look at everything and see the lineup and get tickets if they want?
Tickets will be available hopefully probably about a month. We're still trying to, get all the talent situated. But memphismonstercon.com, it's our website. You can check us out. We're active on Instagram, active on Facebook, or if you just want to shoot us a message, maybe you have somebody that you want to see, memphismonstercon@gmail.com. We'll try to answer as many emails as we can.
On Instagram, on Facebook.
The whole spiel. And we're going to share.
They kicked him off of TikTok because he was dancing too much. That's a whole different story. We'll get on with Jaime next time. Ladies and gentlemen, right there, Jaime Wright, promoter of Memphis Monster Con, owner of 901 Comics with Shannon Merritt. Hey, tell Shannon to accept my friend request.
Will do.
I'm at 4,999 on that page, and I had one spot left, and I threw it to him. But, hey, we wish you the best, and great, man. I mean, this sounds good. We're our folks in Tennessee that listen to us. There you go, folks. Memphis Monster Con coming at you in November. You got nothing else going on in November. We know that. Jaime knows that. So there's no excuses, especially if Doomsday's Crypt gets to go out there with the table. You got to come check out John's stuff. And if he goes, I'll follow him. So, man, we appreciate you, Jaime. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for having me.
Of course. Last word, Mr. Crypt Keeper.
Let's see. Well, tomorrow night we have James Shaver coming on at 9:30. I know you're going to check your schedule. You're trying to get in there to do the show with us, and I might have another special guest to come with us to support James. I got an unboxing to do, and then I got Crypticon KC or Comic-Con KC this weekend. We're taking my guys. I'm just going for a day, and then summer's here. Dolls of Horror. I'm going to be in Chicago at Days of the Dead. So I'm excited for that. And that's
Summer Flynn. We appreciate her. She's got her own podcast and she also
the voice of all the Days of the Dead. She's
that's
awesome.
Right.
Somebody even mentioned that. She's awesome.
She's great. All right. And Jaime, she might be someone to get involved. We'll send you her info. She's great. Interviewer, does her own things. Great to have up on stage doing interviews, but you may already have someone for that. But we appreciate you. Thanks for coming on, Jaime. John, as always, thanks, my brother.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you, chat, and thank you guys for tuning in. Tune in tomorrow night. We're going to show off some James work. He's going to show what he's been working on. He's done some really cool stuff, and we got a Freddy Hawk that I'm going to be unboxing that I got from him. So tune in for that, and until next time, we will see you. Peace out.